Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, especially the 144,000, who consist of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, today I'm looking at prophecy regarding the mark of the beast. We're getting very close now. It's February 2026. There's not many prophecies left. We've got the MOTB, which is an acronym for the mark of the beast, spoken of here, as you can see on the screen, Revelation 13. And we've got World War III on the horizon, and the build-up of these two things will pretty much bring about Jacob's trouble, great judgment going across the earth, evil times, so on and so forth, plagues sent forth across the earth, and these plagues come in many forms. And then this will all culminate in the day of the Lord, and within that day it'll be destruction for America, Babylon the Great, the land of Israel, and it'll also be the return of Yahushai, the Son of the Most High, the one they call God, whose name is Yahweh. So we keep telling you that we're very close to these times. We're in Jacob's trouble. I've been speaking of contractions, so on and so forth. You got these. On one hand, you've got World War III, which is that's like a contraction situation where it looks like there's going to be war, and then it sort of fades away. Then it looks like there's going to be war again, and it fades away. But then we have the mark of the beast, the MOTB, which is a prophecy which is pretty much based around gradualism. There's obviously many prophecies that have taken place, or some that are still to take place in the scriptures, and the way that the Most High is, really it's the Most High who's bringing the prophecy about, the prophecy of Mark of the Beast, and he's doing that. To do that, he's using the Edomites, especially the elites, the banking elites, the top echelon of the Edomite society or the Edomite nation, and then to bring that about, that prophecy is pretty much brought about through gradualism. And so over the years, you had in particular the men of GMS who have broken down this particular prophecy. Many videos have gone out, and you've seen, over the years, different bits of information. They link up. We show you the pathway. We show you what's happening. We're going in a certain direction, and we say to you, we build up a picture. So we say to you, look, this has got to happen. That's got to happen. Such and such. So, for example, World War III will take place. You have the MOTB. When the MOTB comes to pass, it won't be very long until the return of Yahushai, because that'll be the time when miracles will take place. You'll have to use that faith in a big way. All the faith you've had, all the years, even if you've been out on the street and you've been going out on the street for years and years and years, you've done that through faith. You've gone through these many seasons of weather, so on and so forth, many different situations and debates and arguments, and you did that through faith. Even those of you that follow the believe in Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushai, those that follow, you have faith to follow in this understanding, the true understanding of the Bible, and then to call on those names. You get into a situation that's detrimental to your life in some sort of way, maybe your finance or your life or whatever, and then you'll call on these names. So that's faith in that those names exist, and believing that they do hold power, and that they can, they hear you and they will respond to you. But come the time of what the scriptures call the hour of temptation, the time of the MOTB, your faith has to then be at a all-time maximum level. It has to be way beyond what you've experienced before, and you have to have that faith to get through this time, without where you cannot buy or sell, as it says here, Revelation 13:16, and he calls for all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So, these videos go out, and like it sounds like it's on repeat, like the mark of the beast, the mark of the beast, the mark of the beast, and because it's a warning. And then, you wake up in the morning, your alarm, it will keep going, and to give you that. That's the whole idea of an alarm, to give you that warning until you acknowledge it and take it on board. So it's also to build up your faith, because you see these little bits of information. We say, well, look, this is the picture that we've built up for you through the scriptures, through the Holy Spirit. Like, for example, we tell you when the MOTB gets made mandatory, it's not going to be a long gap, a long amount of time between that and the deliverance. But the time leading up to that could be quite hectic. You're going to have uproars of the people. We'll tell you not to get involved. Sedition amongst men, Second Esdras, for example, speaks of this. So there's many different bits of information that go out. We show you how Donald Trump's come into power, Nero in this second time, 2.0, Trump 47. Elon Musk, we showed you, look, Elon Musk is working with him now, look, so this is the next phase. We can see Trump, this time in office, has surrounded himself by technocrats. So that's a sure sign. We say, look, well, this is what we've been telling you. And these things have been happening for a long time. Even when technology, we say, look, this technology exists. Look at this video here, look at that. I remember one video, for example, showing a shop in London where you couldn't buy, I think it was Lidl's in London, where you couldn't buy food from there by using cash. So all these little bits of information seem very small at the time. You click on this video, you hear it, yeah, okay, yeah, another MOTB video, yeah, okay, yeah, we get it, yeah, another bit of information, okay, yeah, we get it, this is done, this has happened now, and oh, okay, another video, yeah, CBDC, still going on about CBDC after 2 years. But this is all for a reason, because it's to build up the picture for you, to build up your faith, so when it really goes down, you really fully understand, the difference, and you know what to do. These people that don't understand, they understand, oh, the MOTB, yeah, you told me it's something that goes under my skin to buy. Yeah, I get it, yeah. And then they fan their hand at it. But when it comes to the time, they don't understand the intricacies of the prophecy. It's going to make them weaker. And so that weakness is ultimately going to make them people take it. So even Apostle Paul told you, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, says we are not ignorant of his devices. That's 2 Corinthians. 2 Thessalonians. It says, let no man deceive you. Verse 3. It says, by any means, for that day shall not come. It says, there come a falling away first. It says, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High, all that is worshipped, so that he as the Most High, in the temple of the Most High, showing himself that he is the Most High. So, we know, obviously, for example, when it comes to Caesar Borgia, an actual image of Yahushua, they took that over, whitewashed it. The saints, the apostles, so on and so forth, the believers, the angels, everything. We understand that's happened already, and obviously with the fulfillment of the mark of the beast. Don't forget, Esau is the Most High's whipping stick. He uses that to punish the nation, he's also going to use it to punish the world in this time of Jacob's trouble by making them introduce this mark of the beast. So even within the mark of the beast, they then become the Most High. They want to. It goes back into that whole process of being your God, your power, having control of your finances, your identification, your medical history, your driver's license, all stored within a microchip. And that microchip is placed under the skin. And then if you want to buy and sell, which is the basic need, to buy food to eat, you then have to go into a store and use that device to scan and to buy. So when that gets made mandatory, you won't be able to buy it in any other way. Therefore, you won't be able to buy any food. So even with that, he wants to be the Most High. So it's the devil's in the detail. I was thinking about this. The devil is in the detail. I actually looked it up. The devil is in the details is an idiom alluding to a catch or mysterious element hidden in the details. It indicates that something may seem simple, but in fact the details are complicated and likely to cause problems. It comes from an earlier phrase. It says the Most High is in the details. God is in the details, expressing the idea whatever one does should be done thoroughly. That is, details are important. So that's pretty much what Apostle Paul's reminding you. When you go back to 2 Corinthians, verse 11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us. We are not ignorant of his devices. We understand that the devil is in the details. The devil is a deceiver. And you go to Revelation 13. Where's the detail? Where would the devil be hiding? Where would the deception be hiding? The deception is within the word mark. You go to the word mark. This is just for anybody that's new, that's coming across these videos for new. Hang on, I'm in the wrong verse. 16. And he calls it for all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark. That word mark is charagma. It's written there, charagma. I'm not going to click on it, which is an incision. It's in their right hand. That word goes back to, it says dexios, which is your power hand, your dominant hand. Or in their foreheads, in your metapon. So that's within your thinking process. That tells us that this system links with Neuralink. So this is like an AI system with Neuralink, but a device that can preferably go in your dominant hand, whichever one, in order to buy and sell. It goes on verse 17, and no man might buy or sell save he had the mark, that incision, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So this is the devil in the detail. We're not ignorant of the devices. So you look at Esau, what he's Esau's got many devices. The internet is a device of Esau. Within the internet, you then have social media. That's another device of Esau. Within the internet, the internet gets broken down into many categories. So another device of Esau is like obviously the electronic monetary system, being able to, having an internet, having a Wi-Fi link, internet, whatever you want to call it, network, allows Esau to then have an MOTB. So these are all devices. You can say the internet is a device as in general, but then within that device there are many smaller devices. And so this is where the videos come in, because all these little videos come out and show you this is happening, that's happening. So you've seen this one, for example, in the last few days. This is the BBC, dated the 12th of February 2026. It says Russia orders block on WhatsApp in messaging app crackdown. So Russia ordering a block on WhatsApp. They're cracking down on WhatsApp. They want to close WhatsApp within the country and stop people using it. And then there's other apps linked to it I think there's a list somewhere. I'm not sure if it's in this article. Mm, but yeah, there's if not, I'm sure it comes up in the article. But there's a whole bunch of other apps that they want to ban within the country. So, for example, there are videos going out saying, "Oh, look, this is like famine of hearing the word," which again is another prophecy. When they really make this push for this to make this mark mandatory, who's going to be the only people warning you? It's going to be the prophets. So the prophets are online, and so that's where famine of hearing the word, because they'll bring restrictions online. So again, these videos have gone out over the years to say, look, this has happened, that's happened. They now do this, and during 2020, that particular crisis in 2020, you couldn't say certain words. So again, that was made it difficult to get message across. Code words had to be used. So that was an example. So in that time, we made videos. We said, look, this is going to happen, and so now we're there. We're sort of almost there. We're very close. This implementation, making it mandatory, is very, very close. If it's not this year, I believe it will be next year. But the way things are moving quite fast. So before I get into this, there was another video that I came across just before I watched it, but I'll go into that in a minute. So this story goes slightly on a deeper level. Russia orders block on WhatsApp. So that Russia are blocking WhatsApp. Okay, so people say, oh, well, Russia are not part of the beast system. Russia are going to end up shooting ICBMs on America. So do they really work with America on a global scale? What's really the deal? I've seen interviews with Putin, and Putin said, look, I've been in charge for so many years, and every time America pull a new president out, he just follows the same agenda as the previous president. So he's showing you that what we know, which is they're puppets. So sometimes you can look at the situation and go, well, do they work together? Do they not? And you look in the media and they make out that Putin and Trump are enemies, but that's all a lot. That's all kind of for show. I've explained it before with Hitler in World War II. They set him up to be the enemy, but what happens is when you're the enemy and you've got a country behind you and you've got an army, sometimes you go rogue and you just say, well, I'm gonna go off the plan and try and make this my own. So these countries work together to a certain degree. These Chinas, these Russias, Americas, because the world has to turn. And what do they say? That money makes the world go round. So to make the money go round, they've kind of got to get on. I can't remember who it was. There was someone previously said that, Iran, how are Iran going to accept the MOTB? They're not set up for it. They're not talking about it. When the whole world switches to a digital currency and there's no cash or coins, those people that get left out have to join. Otherwise, they don't buy or sell, and then you starve. So, people say, oh, this, that, and the other, and oh, Putin's against America and this and that. But yeah, but the bottom line is when the world goes digital, Russia, as big as you want to be, you're going to have to join. So Russia can be an enemy to the West, so on and so forth. They can be the ones that shoot the ICBM on America come the day of the Lord, as well as other nations. But they're still going to realize that while the world's operating in the way it's operating, they need to have digital format of money and payment system. So, you had America, for example, they have SWIFT. Now you have the BRICS. That's like an opposition. And on the front of it, it looks like these two enemies that are clashing. But ultimately, the goal is going to take you to the same place, which is no cash and all digital economy. Whether you want to call them enemies or not. So let's go into this article. It says here, Russia has ordered a block on WhatsApp. It says that as the Kremlin continues to tighten restrictions on messaging apps. This is Meta. This is owned WhatsApp said that the move aimed to push more than 100 million of its app users in Russia to state-owned surveillance app. This is Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told the BBC that the decision has been made due to Meta's unwillingness to comply with the norms and the letter of Russian law. He has said Meta could resume operations if it complies with the law and enters into dialogue. Asked whether authorities were trying to force Russians to use state-developed Max app, Peskov said the national messenger is an available alternative for Russians. Russian internet regulator Rocco Manzor said this week it was further curbing access to messaging app Telegram as well, citing a lack of security. Telegram is highly popular in Russia and said to be widely used by its forces in Ukraine. Pro-war bloggers have complained that the move was hampering communications on the ground. This is even before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Russian authorities had begun work on creating domestic alternative to the global internet. So those moves have gathered pace during the war, along with a push towards state-backed platforms called Max. So they're pulling up, a block on WhatsApp, and they're pretty much using excuses like, it's not safe. We have certain laws within our country. We ask Meta to follow those to comply with those laws, but they don't want to do it. So because they don't want to do it, we'll ban it. And that's what it seems like on the face of it. But then you can see what they're doing here. So then it forces people to go on a Russian-based app, which is the Max app, and even to the point where it's hampering their own soldiers on the ground, but they're still going ahead with it. It says critics have alleged Max could be used for surveillance by Russian authorities. It says through state media, though state media have denied that. It says Max is now being promoted widely inside Russia. It says through TV advertisement and billboards by local officials and by the media. It says Russia has argued that both WhatsApp and Telegram have refused to store Russia's users' data in the country as required by law. So even Putin is using the peace and safety. He goes, well, they got your data and they're not using it in a safe manner required by Russian law. It says authorities in Moscow also allege that WhatsApp is one of the main services used to defraud and extort money from Russians, a reason they cite for people to migrate to the Max app. So all these little scams, you go on these, you go on WhatsApp, and I mean I don't have it, but you go on there, any of these social media platforms, always got these little scams going on. Facebook, you get it, someone trying to sell you something, and it's not a real advert. They're just trying to get this and that out of you or whatever. So they're basically saying that these apps cost our citizens money by defrauding them. So that's they say for that peace and safety. They say to the people, go to Max app, and it's secure, it's safe, it's Russian owned, and at least your information will be safe. WhatsApp said it was doing everything it could to keep the people connected. Trying to isolate over 100 million users from private and secure communication is a backward step and can only lead to less safety for people in Russia, it said in a statement. State-run news agency TASS reported earlier this year that WhatsApp was expected to be permanently blocked in the country in 2026. Such harsh measures are absolutely justified, since Russia has designated Meta as an extremist organization. Andrei Svinstov, a Russian official, was quoted as saying, WhatsApp was previously Russia's most popular messaging service, but since Meta was labeled as extremist in 2022, its apps such as Instagram and Facebook have been blocked in Russia and are only accessible through virtual private networks, VPNs. So Russians are not banned from using its products. Digital Rights Project, Navsavi in Touch, which in English is In Touch, has reported that Russia has increasingly been removing websites from state-run internet address directory, which is controlled by Roskomnadzor. It said that 13 popular resources were now missing from the national system of domain. It says NSDI, including YouTube. So this is the list I was telling you about. So 13 popular resources are now missing from the Russian national system of domain names, the NSDI, including YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, Web, Instagram, the BBC, and Deutsche Welle. Once an entry is removed, the site does not open without a virtual private network, VPN. So they've got a list of, Russia are pretty much controlling the obviously the apps that people can use within the country. They have a list, so if they have this list of domain names, and as long as they have a domain name on their list, you can access it from Russia. If they don't have it, then you have to go via a VPN. It says Moscow has made an extensive efforts to push Russians to its state-developed Max app. So this is where it starts getting, mark of the beast-ish. It says which critics say lacks end-to-end encryption and could therefore be penetrated by authorities. It says the app has been linked to China's WeChat, a so-called super chat that combines messaging and government services. It's mark of the beast-ish. Since 2025, says the authorities have mandated that the Max app be pre-installed on all new devices sold in the country. So it's like, when you buy your iPhone, you buy your iPhone and you get all these apps, half of them I don't even want them, but you try and delete them and you can't because they come as part of the phone. So they're now making sure that Max app is pre-installed on all new devices sold within Russia. That's since 2025, since last year. It says there have been reports of public sector employees, teachers and students being increasingly required to use the platform. Telegram's chief executive, Russian-born businessman Pavel Durov, said the state was restricting access to its service in an attempt to force its people to use its own app for surveillance and political censorship. So check this out, and this is the killer. It says Iran have tried a similar strategy to ban Telegram and push its people to state-run alternative. It says, but citizens have found ways to work around this, he wrote online. And restricting citizens' freedom is never the right answer, said Durov. So that's the end of the article. But so it's one thing, you see on the face of it that Russia are banning these apps. YouTube, you had the BBC, WhatsApp, for example. They're banned from the users within the country. But that's not, that's just the facade. The real agenda is to push people onto this government-backed app, which, lo and behold, has all your government service information as well as everything else. Many years ago, you had Prime Minister of the UK was Tony Blair, and Tony Blair's up there when it comes to this. Tony Blair came and went as a prime minister in the 90s, early 2000s in the UK, and he disappeared off the map. As soon as we've hit 2020, my man's reappeared on the scene, and he's making all these statements on TV. Here he appears here and appears there, and you can tell he's highly linked in with this whole 2020 to 2030 agenda, this change. And when he was prime minister in the 90s, early 2000s in England, he said to everybody, we want to do ID cards. And everybody's like, no, I'm not doing an ID card. What do you think I am? This is England. We're a free country. Blah blah blah. Give you all that talk, all that liberation that they gave the people. The people used it and said, "Well, no, we're not having no ID card." And then people said to him that what professional people were saying, "Oh, what you're calling for is outdated. It's 2000s, early 2000s. ID card is old fashioned." Um, and then like you got to like 2005, 2000, and say 2010, and then what people used to say in the country is, "Oh, do you remember when Tony Blair said, oh, give us we want to give you ID cards," and we rejected it?" And people say, "Yeah, what about it?" So, well, now you're on social media and you've got your smartphone. You've made your own digital ID. You made a digital version rather than that. So everything you do is on there. And what was happening in the beginning? Because I remember in the beginning it was a new thing. They'd catch a girl got stabbed, so they wanted to find out how did she get stabbed, what happened. So they went on her Facebook. Then they found her boyfriend. Then they found out they had an argument. Then they found out their location. Then they checked the CCTV. Then they found out the boyfriend did it. So there's your ID. Everything about you is just labeled. It all sinks in from the social media accounts back down to what you've done within your day. This is Satan's device. We're not ignorant of them. The the details. The devil is within the details. So yeah. So that's what it is. So they were they they were Tony Blair was like, "Yeah, take this ID." People in the UK were like, "Nah, we don't want that." Then they said, "Oh, here's a smartphone," and everybody put all their information online. There you go. There's my ID. So we did that phase. Everything's online now, and we keep telling you, you've got this CBDC, digital currency. Okay, they need a false flag to get rid of cash to crash the economy. Maybe that will be the war. Maybe that will be the final tipping point. And then we've told you that before the device that goes under the skin becomes mandatory, they're going to move you to the apps, to the app-based buying and selling. So that's what they're doing. You see, everything's online now. Everything's moving. Like, for example, as of now, you can go online to do your tax returns if you want to deal with the tax. There'll be an app for it. I go online. I go on my banking app to do my banking. Haven't been to a bank in years. Um, all government services. All these types of things. They're all moving on. If they have, if whoever you deal with, if they haven't got an app already, there's probably one coming out soon. I'm pretty sure. I mean, last time I renewed my driver's license, I think I did that through a paper form, but that was pre 2020. So again, I'm pretty sure that there's something coming out soon. Even with your taxing your vehicles, you go online, you do it all. You don't. You used to get paper stuff through the post. That doesn't happen anymore. So we're already in that world, and it's exactly going the path that the prophets have told you. So now you've got these governments. You've got Russia. I spoke of Russia here. Um, I mentioned Iran at the bottom. These are like main enemies. Amongst other nations, these are quite big enemies of America. Yet they're going in that direction. They're both of these countries are trying ways to push people off WhatsApp and certain social media accounts onto their own government-backed ones. The government-backed ones have government information along with their interaction with each other as a population, and this is all serving towards that database for the MOTB. And then you would have your device under the skin that will be linked to whatever accounts you have, and then that would be the way in which you would operate around the world. You want to leave Russia, for example, you would go on a plane. You'd use that identification device inside the hand. You'd use that to buy your tickets. You'd then board the plane. You'd then have to identify. You go to the airport. You show identifications. You pull out your passport. The airport where I've actually just come to my mind that even the airport where I'm working at Heathrow, they have. I see people coming through with digital passports. So all that kind of stuff will be linked into that device. So you'll walk through onto the plane. You get off the plane. The identification at the other end. You'll scan your device. You get into a taxi. You wanna unless you got one of them driverless Uber or whatever those things that they got. If you still got a normal taxi man at the time, you're gonna have to pay him on his machine with your device. There'll be no more tips, unless you leave a tip, obviously through your device. Eventually, China. You notice that they're not talking about China because China's way ahead. They already got to your social credit score. They've done away with all that. They've still got money, but they, base everything on a social media, on a social credit score. So if you're a bad person, you're breaking laws. For example, they got cameras, things watching people. If people are breaking laws, facial recognition, they find out who they are. They deduct points from their social credit score. Now they don't have access to certain things or certain locations. So China are already way ahead. Various different nations they use as testing grounds. At the minute, we're in this process where Russia are trying to push people onto their own government-based app. You've got Iran doing the same, and then even America. Don't forget America, their enemy. This is what I'm trying to get at. As much as they're enemies to Iran and Russia, they will still go in the same direction. Now, I was all day. I've been watching videos trying to catch up. As a lot of hours, you've got to put in a lot of hours to catch up on a lot of videos. And then just before I made this video, I came across this. This is Azariah raising the elect 144. He does good videos, this brother, and just before I made this video, this kept coming up all day, so I finally clicked on it, and it's exactly the same topic of conversation that I'm talking about, but from the point of view of America. And this brother's brought out Elon Musk, X Money, and he's talking about how he wants to have the nation using X as their financial app, and so on and so forth. I mean, he goes into various different bits of information. I'll leave the link for this video in the description box. It's only gone up 4 hours ago, but it's exactly the same topic that I'm speaking on. I mean, this video has only gone up 4 hours ago, but it's exactly the same topic that I'm speaking on. So you've got America trying to push, Elon Musk. You notice that America is at when you look at it, like China's way ahead. They've already got their social credit score operating. They've got 15-minute cities. They've got ways of blocking people from certain areas if they don't have the right social credit score, so on and so forth. So they're quite down the line. You've got Russia making moves to actually ban certain social media apps in order to push people onto their own government-based app. It says Iran have tried the same, and Elon Musk is speaking about it as if this is like the direction he wants to go at some point in the future. But what's going to happen is America are going to catch up very soon. See, these are all testing grounds. The real showpiece on Earth will be America come Jacob's trouble, come the destruction. America, that great city, is going to get that terrible judgment. So obviously, when in America, you read in, for example, 2nd Ezra chapter 15, 16, a lot of these things will take place in America: uproars of the peoples, sedition amongst men, invading one another, and these things will happen around the world. But mainly America's. This is where a lot of this stuff is going to take place. Obviously, judgment comes in for the rest of the world. Obviously via World War III, so on and so forth. The MOTB itself will be judgment, because there's a lot of believers out there. People, maybe they don't believe in the truth in the way that we understand it. maybe they don't understand the names Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, but these Christians, a lot of them know what the mark of the beast is, so they'll try their best not to take it. The spirit won't be on them, they'll fail. And that journey from realizing that calling on Jesus is not helping them to taking the mark of the beast is going to be a terrible journey for them. So judgment is going to go out all around the world. A visitation is going to take place. The Most High is bringing judgment. But yeah, you see, like I say, going back to this topic here and the MOTB, it's gradualism is gradually happening, and we're almost there. We're very close. So I'll leave the link for this video in the description box. Like I say, this brother goes into Elon Musk speaking on X Money. I'll leave the link for this one. This is the article about Russia ordering the block on WhatsApp. They're also trying to push people onto Max. So before I go, there's also, speaking of devices, I mean, there's many devices that Esau uses. Actually, I need that. Let me bring that back. There's many devices that Esau uses in this world. We have this whole thing with, the MOTB. It's not just about buying and selling. It's about controlling the world. So you've got this agenda, this 2020 to 2030, this great reset. We've got all these problems happening around the world. For example, immigration. We keep telling you that these things are put into place by the elites. They're not natural occurrences. The world hasn't just stumbled across the problems that it's in. The world is managed by a group of people. They control the money system. Therefore, they control the laws and everything else. So within that, they've created a rat race. You're living a rat race. That's what the world is. But it's at its worst. And this is not because, people forgot to do certain things and attention wasn't paid to certain things. Obviously, yes, there's a lot of decadence about, the people have been spoilt with the lifestyles that they live and so on and so forth. But a lot of these things are driven from the top. We've seen that in 2020, for example. And so, for example, at the minute you see like this immigration problem, they let that happen. This goes back to the Albert Pike Mazzini plan. You can look that up. You've got this problem, for example, people are talking about, scriptures talk about it, about the worms, so on and so forth in Isaiah, about America decaying. The bridges are ready to collapse. There's potholes all over the road, so on and so forth. That's happening in Europe. It's happening in the UK. But again, it's not just because people forgot to pay the bill and the government forgot to go send the workforce out to go and fix the roads. It's because they're letting it degenerate, and so they let it degenerate to make the people unhappy, to make the people go take to the streets, just like the scriptures tell you. So when they take to the streets, they can say, well, peace and safety, here's the MOTB, take this and we'll fix everything, we'll track everybody, there'll be no more crime, and everybody will get what they need. So they got the, even down to the climate. The climate, they use the climate as a weapon. That's another device, and it goes, on one hand they use it to clear areas. Yeah, we know that, we understand that. They use it to clear out areas so they can go and rebuild their own stuff in those areas. But they also use it as a scare tactic. For example, with the what they call it, the climate crisis. I forgot what they call it. The hole in the ozone, heating up, all that kind of stuff that they were used to go on about, and they still do it now. Your carbon footprint, that's the one. Your carbon footprint. So your carbon footprint is ruining the world. So now that's going to be part of the MOTB system, where they restrict, your carbon footprint. So that means stop you driving, stop you buying stuff, because everything you buy has a carbon footprint. You bought a bottle of drink, and the plastic had to come from somewhere. Someone had to transport the drink itself. Someone had to produce it, and all that has a carbon footprint. You have a car, you drive too much. No, we can't have you driving too much. They say move to electric cars, and then people say, well, oh, that's greener car, but then reports come out saying, no, they're not really greener, because when you check how they make the battery for the car, it's worse than a combustion engine. So why do you get all these little holes in why does nothing ever make sense? Because it's just a lie, and they just keep putting lie on top of lie to push you into this direction where they say, well, we need to control everything. So a big part of that agenda is the climate and the climate control, climate crisis, carbon footprint, so on and so forth. So saying that, I was searching around today on YouTube. I happened to come across this particular person, Craig Houston Talks To. I think this guy is Scottish. He's Scottish, and so I came across one video. He's got this one here. Biology professor Robert Winston said this 5 years ago on the BBC, and hasn't been on since. The first one I saw is this one, Johnny Ball. So when I was young, growing up in the 80s, born in 1980, growing up in the 80s, even if you're older than that, in the UK, I'm pretty sure he was around in the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s and the 2000s. He was around. He was like a TV personality, Johnny Ball. So this is the first one I saw. Johnny Ball said this 22 years ago and was never on BBC again. So I clicked onto that, and it led me onto this. Biology Robert Winston said this 5 years ago on the BBC, and hasn't been on since. Led me to this. Professor David Bellamy. He was another person when we were young. You're watching, when you're at school, you come home, you're watching TV, and then these people would come on these kids programs, and it was like a children's program, but they were giving you science. They were telling you, oh, this is how you know the world is 70% water and whatever else, and certain things about the body. And so you're a kid, you're not really no big scientist, but the people around the whole country would remember these people in the UK, and you was learning off these people. So Professor David Bellamy said this 22 years ago and was never on the BBC again. So there's a pattern developing. And then the fourth one, there's four altogether. Dr. Heather Berkenskell Evans said this 8 years ago on the BBC and hasn't been on since. So I had to watch them all. They're not long. Each video is about 10 minutes. So it takes about 40 minutes to get through it. But by the second video, you get the pattern. Famous person, TV personality, professor, with real qualifications, known for years for giving advice to the country, various different programs. They pull them up and they talk about this, educate the country. They come on TV, they tell you this, that, and the other. And so all these people. So this first one, Johnny Ball got cancelled basically. You see, again, what they do now with this device, they got social media. So if they want to get rid of you on the celebrity scene, they create an uproar around you on social media. That's one of the devices, and they cancel you. See, back in the day, before that, they cancelled you without actually cancelling you. There wasn't, there was a cancel culture, but they didn't call it cancel culture because there was no internet. It just happened. And so what happened is Johnny Ball, he's been asked to come on TV, and then he did this program, and in it he spoke about the climate, and he basically said how it's just a load of rubbish, and how that humans produce 4% of the world's carbon. So how is your carbon footprint going to harm the world? And ever since he said that, they swiped him off TV. Never been seen again. Dr. Heather, this is the one above it here, Dr. Heather. If I'm looking at the top right on my screen here, Dr. Heather Berkenskell Evans, she's a doctor. And she came on the BBC and said, yeah, you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. You can wear whatever you want to wear. But biologically, you can't change yourself. As soon as she said that, They dropped it off the TV. See, these people are, maybe they're not household names to everybody, but they're high level professionals whose opinion was valued by the nation through the TV, and they were brought on TV to give medical advice or scientific advice to people. So you can't have someone like that running around society saying things like that when you've got an agenda to push. Um, and it just goes on. This Robert Winston, I think he spoke about, again, the same um, biology, because they started asking him questions about this, that, and the other, and he basically told them, I'm a biologist. You've called me here to answer biology questions. And he went out and told them what they didn't want to hear. And again, with David Bellamy, it was about the climate. So these are all Satan's devices. So you could probably watch one of these and you kind of get the pattern. Like I say, for all 4 videos, they're all the same. They're not very long, but this is all part of that agenda. I just came across it. But the real main part of this particular video is these governments pushing people onto these government-based apps. It's the mark of the beast, and it's coming soon. Soon you're going to have all these services based on an app. The economy is going to get worse. It's going to tip over that edge where it collapses. The US dollar will collapse. All the countries around the world, everybody's monetary system will just go tits up, as they say, and then they'll have to introduce a digital currency. And there'll be no cash, no coins, and everything you do will be tracked. And then at first they might make you use that on an app-based system, on your government-based app, which is what they're trying to push you to now. And then eventually they'll say, you need to take this device under the skin. I believe when they get to that point of saying you have to take the device under the skin, I believe that change will come through a fear for life. So either through uproars of the people, and where things have just broken out so bad that you have to take this so they can track everybody, or if there's some sort of, I don't know what happened in 2020 again. I don't know. I'm just speaking as a man, but either way, the process of the app is definitely correct, because you can see it happening now. You can see all these things that are on these app. You can see the governments pushing people to their own government-based app systems. So what's the next step to take you to the MOTB itself? So we're very close. Most High is bringing these prophecies to pass. It will not tarry. So I hope that's edifying. I'm going to leave it right there. Until next time, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakak, Wadash. And until next time, Shalom.